Hey guys, Jeff here, 242. So glad you could join us again for week 2 of The Way Today. It's a conversation we're having about how we follow Jesus today, looking at some stories from his life and the things that he did to set us up well to follow Jesus today. Before we jump into tonight, or today, whatever it is, whenever you're watching this, I want to let you know, some of you have been asking about Passion this year. We're going again. We've got some details. Watch this video real quick. So we're super pumped for Passion this year. You can see on the screen right now the dates and the cost and all those type of things. We're working on getting everybody there. It's going to be a great time. We hope you can join us for Passion 2019. If you're interested in going, just make sure you get a hold of me, get a deposit of $50. That secures your spot. We have 20 spots available, and we're going to make sure that those things go quick. So get signed up, get your team, get your name, small group, whatever you want to do, get them signed up, and let's go to Passion this year together. Hey, we've been talking about this idea of the way today, and the first week we talked about appetites. Last week we talked about appetites. Tonight, I want to cover conversation around this idea of our lives and this other thing we call hurry. I don't know about you, if you've ever stopped to take an inventory of your life and you were to boil it all down, your Christian life, boil it all down, your religious life, your faith, your spirituality, whatever you want to call it, wherever you come at this thing from, you boil it all down to one thing. I wonder what word you would use. One word that you would use to describe your faith or the way that you follow after Jesus. Oftentimes, I think we come down to this place where we want something deeper, we want something more. We get to a place where we're following Jesus for a season, and that season is rich and it's full and it's really clear to see how God is moving. And then we get to other seasons where it is definitely not. It is not full. It is not rich. It's almost dry. And I often wonder why that is. I read a book a couple months ago by Alan Fadling called The Unhurried Life. And the basic premise of this is if we look at Jesus' life and we boil it all down to one phrase or one word, we could use a whole bunch of things, but one thing that would remain consistent throughout his entire life is this idea of being unhurried. Right? Jesus didn't go from crisis to crisis to crisis, not stopping and running marathons for the entirety of his ministry life. He didn't run from where the grass seems greener to where the grass seems greener to where the grass seems greener. He was consistent and he was unhurried. And I want to look at a passage tonight that kind of gives us a perspective of that. Because here's the deal. When it comes down to our spiritual lives, when it comes to our lives in general, when we hurry, there's a number of things that happen, right? One of those things might be we feel more stress exponentially, right? Because as we continue to hurry, as we continue to do more and more stuff, as we put more things into our life, thinking that we're going to be able to accomplish more or do more good or follow after Jesus more or impress more people or get that promotion or whatever it may be, we add stress. And it usually goes exponentially because we add and we add and we add and we add and we add. And as we add, stress continues to just go up and up and up. So we feel more stress exponentially. The second thing is that we find ourselves spending less time resting, right? I remember when I first started working full-time and I got a full-time job and I got a salary and they give me vacation time. And I'm like, sweet. I don't have time for that, right? I don't have time. Not only do I have time, I don't even know if I have money for that kind of stuff, right? Because I was getting paid peanuts at the time. And so the whole idea of I'm just going to keep doing more and more stuff, and the more stuff that I do, the less time that I spend resting. So we find ourselves resting less. Or one of these things is we try to do more and more than we're actually capable or purposed to do, right? We in our effort to try and do more, our effort to try and experience more, we do more and more and more, and we often stretch ourselves into areas that we're not capable of and areas that we're not purposed to do. So we try to do more. And the last one is we often find ourselves running ragged. We just continue to run, and we don't ever stop, and we kind of just find ourselves run ragged. Perhaps the worst and most detrimental product of a hurried life, this is it. This is where I'm going to come at you tonight. This is where we're going to have a conversation. Is a disconnection from the Spirit of God and a close relationship with Him. An unhurried life, one of the biggest detriments to having an unhurried life is a disconnection from the Spirit of God and a close relationship with Him. Now I just want to say one thing really quick. I'm not saying we should do less stuff yet. Not yet. I'm not saying we should do less stuff and pray all the time. I'm not saying we should do less stuff and only read our Bibles. I'm not saying we should do less stuff and we should go to more worship services. I'm not saying we should do less stuff and go to more Bible studies. I'm not saying any of those things. I think that some of those things may be a product of what I'm about to say and what we're about to see. But what I'm not saying is that you should just stop doing a bunch of stuff so you can do more Christian-y stuff, right? Here's what I think an unhurried life, and if I could boil it down to a single core thing tonight, having an unhurried life means identifying the areas of your life where you find yourself hustling. Cue Rick Ross.
Every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling, every day I'm hustling.
Okay, so that was, I could never do what Rick Ross does. Identifying, right, the whole idea is I want to identify the areas of my life where I find myself hustling, where I find myself depending on me. Here's what I might define it as: areas of your life where you want change, and so you take it upon yourselves to make that change. I find this area of my life, I want to add to this area of my life, I want to see more things happen in this area of my life, and so what do? I simply take it upon myself to make that thing happen. It's focused on my own effort, my own abilities, my own time, and it's really just, it's about me and what can I accomplish. So I find myself hustling. And so I want to point you to a verse, a passage today, whenever you're watching this, that kind of gives us a perspective of maybe some things that we need to change. Maybe just an idea of what this looks like to be unhurried. So if you have a Bible, we're going to be in John 11. Now, of course, if you know anything about this passage, this section of Scripture, Jesus is doing ministry, right? Jesus is doing ministry, and he finds out that Lazarus, a friend of his, is ill, and it's not looking good. And when they say it's ill, it's like one of those moments where, like, hey, come and see, this is the last chance you're going to see him. That's how they communicate it to him. And he says this interesting thing in verse 4, but when Jesus heard it, he said, "This illness does not lead to death. It is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified through it." Now, what's so interesting about this is, of course, Jesus is God, and so he knows, right? He knows that he has an idea of what he's about to do, right? And so he doesn't run. He says, now Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Then after this, he said to the disciples, "Let us go to Judea again." The disciples said to him, "Rabbi, the Jews are now seeking to stone you. Are you going there again?" So they have this conversation about how, are we really going to do this, right? Are we really going to go through this place? But what I'm trying to bring your attention to is he finds out he's ill and he stays 2 days longer where he is. Now, I don't know about you, but if I was to hear that a good friend, or my mom or my dad, is ill to the point where I need to leave what I'm doing and get there, there's a high probability that you ain't going to see me. I'm going, right? I'm going to wherever that is, right? That I'm not wasting another moment. I'm going because Lazarus is going to be dead soon, and I love him, right? But Jesus doesn't do that. Jesus finishes what he's doing, and then he goes. Now, again, I'm not suggesting to you that we always know when things are urgent, when things aren't, when things are important and urgent, and when things are not urgent and important. But what I am suggesting is that Jesus in this moment has an idea of what's taking place, and he knows what needs to take place next, and he doesn't run because something seems important. He recognizes that there is a part of this that he is not going to be hurried. He's not going to hustle. He's not going to be moved by his own timeline. So it ends up that they get there. Now when Jesus came, verse 17, when Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. Bethany was near Jerusalem, about 2 miles off, and many of the Jews had come up to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother, because he's dead now. So when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him. But Mary remained seated at the house. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now, I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you. Jesus said to her, your brother will rise again. Martha said, I know he'll rise again in the resurrection. On the last day, Jesus said to her, I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? She said to him, yes, Lord. I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world. Now, what happens next is that Jesus comes up to him and they go to the tomb and they realize these people are starting to mourn, right? These are people who are in deep trouble, right? Jesus goes up to them in verse 34 and he said, where have you laid him? They said to him, come and see. And Jesus wept. He's moved, right? So the Jews said, see how he loved him. But some of them said, could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man also have kept this man from dying? Now, of course, we know the rest of the story, right? Jesus says, take away the stone. And he says, Lazarus, come out. And here comes Lazarus. Lazarus is alive again. Now, I didn't tell you this, but if you look back into chapter 11 in verse 11, after saying these things, he said to them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go to awaken him. The disciples said, Lord, if he's fallen asleep, he will recover. Now, Jesus had spoken of his death, but they thought he had meant taking rest and sleep when Jesus told them plainly, Lazarus has died, and for your sake I am glad that I was not there, so that you may believe, but let us go to him. Now, I don't always know why things take place. I don't know why discussions happen. I don't know why I get certain text messages that throw my day off. I don't know why I get certain conversations. I don't know why certain things take place until usually afterwards. But I have a choice every single moment of my life. I have a choice every single situation that comes up. I have a choice every single time something comes in my way that seems like an obstacle, or seems like something I should move, or seems like an area that I want to add to my life, or seems like there's something that's deficient in this area of my life and I just want to fix it. I have a question to ask to ask myself, and that question is how much of this is going to change because of my effort that would change when I gave it to Jesus to put his effort forth? It's really a question of trust, right? In this moment, Jesus has to ask the question for himself, do I trust that what God is going to do to use this situation to glorify me and therefore glorify him? Do I trust that he's going to do that? And I have that question every single day. When I get a text message from my mom, hey, grandma's in the hospital. When I get a phone call from a parent that says, hey, we got a situation to deal with. When I get a tense conversation with two students. When I have a moment with my coworker where I'm just not sure why we're having this conversation because it seems a whole lot more tense than it had to be. Of course, that doesn't happen in the church. My point is, the question that I have every single moment of my life is, do I trust that I can follow Jesus and he will show me the way I'm supposed to go, and it's not going to mean that I have to rush and I have to be over the top depending on myself, but that I can trust that he's going to navigate me through the situation and he's going to provide me with everything I need to get through the situation, and he's going to do it in his timing. But that doesn't mean I have to hustle. See, perhaps we see less of Jesus in our lives because we rush to fix things, or we move to handle things on our own, because we trust in our hustle before we trust in our hope. Right? If Jesus died and rose again, and if you believe that that's actually the case, then everything that happened beforehand that predicted his life and his death and his resurrection And everything that took place afterwards that revealed the power of the Spirit of God moving through a bunch of people and moving to a place where they are now, to the place where we are today, if those things are true, how does that change our consistency now? Do we trust that God is moving, or do we trust that we're supposed to move for God? Right? So let me ask you this. How does your day start? How does your day progress? And how does your day end? What's the consistency of those things? Is it hustle? Is it moving from one thing to the next as fast as you possibly can to make sure you can get those things done so you can move into a new realm or a new job or a new promotion? Maybe the question we should ask each day is this. Do we trust that our hope is greater than our hustle? Do we trust that our hope is greater than our hustle? If Jesus is who he says he is, if he sent us who he sent us, if he told us about this God in heaven, as his Father in heaven who cares for us, plans for us, moves us, is our hope greater than our hustle? Are we trusting him? What part of your life are you saying, God, you have to do this if it's going to happen? Can I tell you right now? As I write this message, as I have this conversation with you, I'm asking that question of myself because I'm really good at hustling. Not Rick Ross style. I'm pretty good at hustling. So the question becomes, do we trust that our hope is greater than our hustle? I might say it another way. If our hope informs our hustle, because here's the deal, it's not wrong to work. It's not wrong to work hard. It's not wrong to work with excellence. It's not wrong to do a bunch of stuff for Jesus. It's not wrong to do stuff. But what informs our hustle? If our hope informs our hustle, we will find ourselves that unhurried life that God promises us. If we allow our hope, the things that we hope, the things that we look for, the things that we're driving towards, the things that we believe in, to inform how we go about our life, to inform our hustle. And we get that unhurried life because he doesn't promise to give us more than we can handle. He doesn't promise to take us to the place that we can't, we need something more out of ourselves. He says, here, I'm giving you everything you need for godliness. Trust me for everything else. Maybe this is why the writer in Hebrews says that faith is the assurance of things hoped for and the confidence of things unseen. That I hope for something, I'm assured of it. I'm convicted of the things that I can't see right now, but I'm going to trust him for because of the hope that I have. So, do you trust that your hope is greater than your hustle? And if you do, how does your day start? How does it progress and how does it end? Does it start, beginning, and end? Does it start, progress, and end trusting him? Or does it start, progress, and end trying to figure it out on your own? What's that look like for you tonight? In your small group, I'd love it if you had a conversation about what that looked like. Maybe in the process, you can start to ask the question, maybe does it need to start differently? Do I need to progress through my day differently? Do I need to end it with a bed of an ad or an addition of Thanksgiving? What does that look like for you? Love for you to have that conversation. And while you do that, I want to remind you, October 27th, we're heading on to Steel Farms. We'd love for you to be a part of that. $5. Meet us at 7 o'clock out there. It's going to be great. Just a nice little fun thing to do on a Saturday. Hey, next week we're super excited because Robert Neuenschwander is going to come. He's going to talk about this idea of the apologetic way and how we relate to a world that doesn't necessarily relate to what we believe. And how can we have that conversation in the world? We're going to wrap up this section this month talking about what I'm going to call the transformational way, and how when we look at how Jesus prayed for us to be in the world but not of the world, what does that actually look like? And how can we be more transformational in a culture that seems to be way out of whack? How can we be transformational with the people around us, and what's that look like in our lives? So I hope you join us for the next couple of weeks. Before then, we'll talk to you later. Have a great week.